David, there's only one reason why we chose to do this album today. And I'd like you to see if you can guess what that is.
I wonder if it's maybe because of Armenia.
That is correct.
Thank you for letting me say it first. That's an amazing gift. And because of that gift, I'm going to give one back to you. You can say something else that always is brought up on the podcast first. I think you can guess what that is.
Yes, I would like to give a big shout out to Jennifer today.
Nice.
And with that, let's get into the episode.
This is David, as usual, joined by the co-host this week, Brandon.
As usual.
As usual.
And guys, we've got a great episode for you today, because not only are we talking about Armenia's very own, well, maybe Glendale's very own System of a Down.
Yes.
We also have a political work to pair along with our political work. How about that? A war film that's actually an anti-war film. But before that, we have to talk about what David watched in the past week.
Let me start off by saying that Jennifer and I haven't been to the theater in a couple of weeks. We've been busy. We've also been out of town. So we decided that we have to watch something very special as the first thing that we see in theaters in like 3 weeks. And so, of course, what did we choose but The Housemaid, starring Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried. Not because we thought it was good. I want to throw that out there because I know you guys are going to be like, oh my God, look what they're watching. We knew it was not going to be good, but we knew that it was going to be great, ironically. And it was. It's hilarious. It's so over the top. It's so like stupid that it just makes it fun. You see the upper rack. I'll say that.
I mean, that's to be expected with a Sydney Sweeney movie.
Well, the other thing is every single time that you see any sort of nudity in the film, they start playing this super cheesy music and it just makes it so funny and doesn't make it sexy at all. It's just so idiotic. And the film also ends in a really stupid way because, you know, she helps like Amanda Seyfried kill her husband pretty much. And then Amanda Seyfried like refers her to other wives, you know, of rich husbands. Pretty much the movie ends with this other woman being like, oh, you know, I want to hire you. And she's like hinting that she wants Sydney Sweeney to kill her husband too. So it's like, oh, now Sydney Sweeney is going to go around killing like bad guys because, you know, these women need to get out of it. And it's just like, it's so stupid. It's like so over the top and cheesy. And I want to say, a couple of days ago, me and Brandon were talking. We were actually trying to record, but it didn't work out because of my stupid ass internet. But I made a prediction. And my prediction was that they're going to make a sequel to The Housemaid where she does what I literally just said. She goes around killing people.
I can vouch for this prediction, by the way.
And I was right because literally the next morning, they released the news that they're making The Housemaid 2. So
I was going to bring this up if you weren't, because I literally saw it and I was like, oh my God, if only we had a record of that episode that we tried to record. But unfortunately, Spectrum got in the way.
Boo Spectrum.
We hate him.
But with that, I got to throw it over to you and ask you, what have you been listening to this past week?
As you may have predicted, nothing has come out because we are in the depths of winter. No one is releasing music. It is terrible. And I have nothing to look forward to. So I figured I have a playlist of stuff called What the Hell I Should Listen To. And this playlist has been over 3,000, maybe 4,000 songs for a while because I keep adding to it and I keep being like, oh, I'm going to listen to it sometime. I'm going to listen to it sometime. Well, that time is now, and it's been the past 3-4 weeks, and we'll continue. I'm almost done, by the way, I got to say. I have cleared out over 2,500 songs. I've done about 300 hours of music of listening to this stuff. Most of it is stuff from 2024 that I put off because I was like, it's all artists that I cared about that I was like, I don't care enough to listen to their albums. Turns out most of them are bad. So that's been a really fun experience. But in that, I did find something that I've been wanting to listen to forever that turned out to be actually amazing. And this is an EP called 3, the EP, by a band called Milk with a period after it. And they are from Dublin, Ireland. They make very interesting kind of 1975 style music, modern pop rock, and they are very interesting. And I have only listened to this one EP, and I love them already, and I'm going to continue listening to their stuff over the next coming weeks. This was one of the best discoveries of going through these hundreds of hours of music. Pretty much everything else has been uneventful. I did add a bunch of songs, but no like full albums that I was blown away by like I was with this EP. And of course, because of the time of year it is, I have no song for you this week, unfortunately. But I have to tell you, there was a piece of news that dropped today that I'm very sad about, and that is Bruno Mars is releasing an album in February. So unfortunately, I will be suffering this year for probably the majority of it. And, that's just what happens. I'm going to give it a shot. I always give new music a shot. I will probably end up listening to the album in full. I expect to enjoy at least one song, but overall, I fear for what pop music will become this year. I'll leave it at that.
I just want to say that I am looking forward to when we cover Bruno Mars' album, because I know that's going to be a fun episode to listen to, probably. As someone that has enjoyed Bruno Mars's music, I feel like there's going to be two different views.
Yes, we might have to both listen to it just to give our opinions on it, but that'll probably be in March by the time that episode comes out. So yeah, something to look forward to, I guess, maybe.
Except for you.
Enough talk about suffering. We need to talk about something very light and airy, a nice, happy topic, which is the politics of the United States of America from 1990 to present.
Yes.
And that is going to be the topic of our album this week, because this is Toxicity by System of a Down. This is their second album. It was released September 4th, 2001. I want you to remember that date, September 4th, 2001. Think about if anything has happened around that time, or anything did happen, We'll talk about that a little bit later. And it was released by American Recordings and Columbia Records. Now, here's the fun part. System of a Down is from Glendale, California. And I texted David a few days ago, and I said, I have some names, and I'd like you to read them. So, David, I'm going to give a little introduction, and then I'm going to have you read the first name here. So the band is lead vocalist
Serge Tankian,
guitarist and additional vocalist
Daron Malakian,
bassist
Shavo Odadjian,
and drummer
John Dolmayan.
All of them are Armenian.
That's right.
And I assume you've heard of System of a Down, but how well do you know their music?
Obviously, I've heard about System of a Down. Every Armenian has. It's kind of like when people hear that you're Armenian, the answer is always one of two things. It's, oh, so like Kim Kardashian, or it's like, oh, like System of a Down. I know a lot about them. I never really heard their music before, though. Or I had heard Toxicity before, but I'm not a big like heavy metal person. I never got into it, so I don't know much about them, to be honest. That being said, I've always been a big fan of Serge Tankian because I know about a lot of the stuff he does outside of System of a Down, and from everything I've heard and everything I've seen, he really is just an amazing person. So I had to shout him out. And I assume that a lot of the other members are probably. I don't know much about them, but I assume they're also great people. Hopefully.
That is what I've heard. Now, they have been feuding with each other for about 20 years, and it seems to be Serge's fault mostly.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure, but but they all seem to have very good politics, good views on the world, and stick up for marginalized communities,
right.
Which, that to me is a mark of a good person.
Exactly.
So this is our first album in the genres alternative metal and nu metal, which you brought up heavy metal. That is technically different.
Right.
Alternative metal and nu metal fall somewhere in there and are kind of like an offshoot of it. So I'm cool with that. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about these two genres. Alternative metal combines metal with influences of alternative rock and features a mix of sung vocals and screamed vocals, which we do hear on this album.
A lot.
And nu metal is actually a subgenre of alternative metal. And it has a lot of additional influences, most notably industrial music and hip hop. I've heard people describe nu metal as rap metal, but technically they are two different genres. Both of these genres had their peaks in the late 90s and early 2000s, which is kind of the perfect time for this album to come out. And both are genres that I would consider to be part of the broader dad rock label. If you are around our age listening to this, most likely your dad is a member of Gen X and knows this music pretty well. So the album received critical acclaim, and it is considered one of the best nu metal albums of all time. It peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and is certified 6 times platinum, despite none of its 3 singles peaking above 55 in the Hot 100. But I will talk more about that later.
That's crazy.
It was executive produced by Rick Rubin, who's somewhat of a legend in pretty much all musical spaces. And here is where I have an additional name for you. We have additional vocals by...
Yeah, so this, I honestly, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this because this is a Turkish last name. I'm not saying that the person is Turkish. You know, obviously we have Armenians with Turkish names and vice versa. So I'm going to try my best, but I'm probably also going to get this wrong. Arto Tunkboyaskian. I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. That's the best I can do.
The C Sadia is like, would be an S sound in French, but then you also have that I in there, but it's Iyan. So it's like a Turkish-ified Armenian last name because I know he is an Armenian.
Yeah.
But I do not know how to say his name.
Yeah,
so
I don't know either.
Shout out to him, Ardo. And he is also the namesake of the last song, which I will talk about when we get to the last song. There's additional piano on this album by Rick Rubin. It's mixed by Andy Wallace and mastered by Eddie Schreier. I don't know if that's how you say his name. And now, my prediction for you. Your favorite on this album will either be Ardo or Chop Suey.
I'm excited to get into it.
So let's get into the track by track. We got to start off with, of course, track number 1, Prison Song. And I'm going to just say the Americanized version of their names because I'm not going to ask you to say them every time. So my apologies to the nation of Armenia. I love your people. This song was written by Darren Malakian and Serge Tankian, produced by Darren Malakian and Rick Rubin. Obviously, this song is a criticism of the prison industrial complex in America. And this is where I'd like to give a shout out to the band, which you kind of already did. I remember that Serge performed at CSUN in protest against Israel's occupation of Palestine.
That's right.
And it's cool to see that they have been on the correct side of history since the 90s and like continuing up to today, because usually it's just one or the other. Usually you start with like being a leftist and then you become an insane person, or you start off as an insane person and then you're like, wait, I've been insane. I should probably repent for my sins. But I should also mention that it's unclear if they formed at CSUN or not, which is Cal State Northridge, our alma mater.
That's right.
But they are definitely involved around there. And I believe Serge went there and graduated from there. So shout out to Cal State Northridge. So yeah, I'd like to say that I'm a big fan of abolishing prisons, but I am not totally a fan of this song. However, I will say that this is one of the better songs on here. I gave this one a 2.5, and we're going to kind of run into my dislike of nu metal throughout this whole album, which will be a theme. I'm not going to say I hate all nu metal. I don't. But it is definitely a genre that is starting a little bit lower than some other genres because it's generally not something that I enjoy listening to. I'm not like, hey guys, put on that Korn or that System of a Down or that Limp Bizkit. So, you know, that's not usually what I say. But anyway, what do you think about this song?
This is going to be very, very interesting because going into this, I was like, yeah, this is totally not my thing. I gotta say though, it kind of grew on me. We'll get into that later, though. Let me start off by saying, with this specific song, I do agree. I think every single freaking prison needs to be like changed in this country and like it is not working, and most of the people in there are in there for bullshit. But anyways, this song is honestly just kind of fun, which is ironic because it's about prison.
Yeah,
but it just gets me going. Like it just works for me. You know, it clicks with me. It's definitely not my favorite genre. It's not a genre that I'm particularly interested when it comes to music. And it's not something that I'm going to come back to a lot. But this song just worked. It clicked. And it made me think that maybe I like this genre more than I thought I did, even if I don't love it. This is a 3.5. It's a very good start.
Oh,
for me in this
wow.
genre, in my opinion. Yeah, I surprised myself, in all honesty.
You mentioned something about this growing on you. I listened to this album 2 times in full, and then I also went back to other songs additional times. I gotta say, after a while, I was kind of like, maybe I do kind of enjoy it in certain contexts. So some of these scores are pretty low because I was kind of getting annoyed with it after a while, but I don't know. I feel like this one is one that I might want to reevaluate at some point. I don't know. Maybe I have the potential to enjoy new metal, and I just have a kind of gut reaction of being like, ugh, this is disgusting when I first hear it. And then the more I hear it, I'm kind of like, maybe. I said the same thing. I feel like this is a standout among the album. Like, I feel like it's a great opening, and it's a fun song for being about like such a dark topic. They managed to make it enjoyable and interesting. 2.5. Track number 2, Needles. Written by Darren Malakian and Serge Tankian, produced by Darren Malakian and Rick Rubin, which is going to be pretty much the same throughout the entire album, except sometimes Rick Rubin is the primary producer, so I am unfortunately going to be reading that the entire time. This song is about drug addiction, and it features both Serge and Darren singing. There's something so theatrical and over the top about this song and about nu metal as a whole that I just can't really connect with it. This is the type of song that you would have been shoved into a locker for liking in the 90s/early 2000s. And I have one other thing to say. Pull the tapeworm out of your ass. Hey, 1.5.
Hey, they came up with some interesting lyrics for this song.
There's a lot of great quotable lyrics on this.
Yeah, there are a lot. I wrote some for some future songs too. I agree with you though. This is not as good as Prison.
Wait, I think you mean Prison Song.
Prison Song. I'm sorry.
This song is worse than being in prison.
It was fine. I didn't hate it, but I didn't also like particularly love it or like it much. I just felt that it was too screamy and too repetitive. And I feel like for me, those are two things that have always stopped me from kind of getting into heavy metal or, like new metal, new rock, that, those types of genres, because in my mind they were that, which obviously is a generalization, is not true, but maybe that's a reason why I don't like this song as much. It's a 3. I don't hate it, but it doesn't do much. It's just kind of there.
Track number 3, Dear Dance. Written by Darren Malakian and Serge Tankian, produced by Darren Malakian and Rick Rubin. This song is about police brutality. And I gotta say, when this song started, I thought, oh my God, does every song sound the same? Because these first 3 start almost exactly the same way.
The Kesha effect is here.
Oh, for sure. I feel like as a band, they have pretty great lyricism, but unfortunately, that is the least of my concerns when listening to nu metal generally, because it's a lot of abrasive sounds and screaming and rapping and things that I don't know if they always go together. But the bridge on this song, where there are melodic moments, is quite nice, and it makes me enjoy this song a lot more than Needles. And I wrote, of course, RIP to the Staples Center. Unfortunately, people do call it the Crypto.com Arena, which is insane, because when they changed the name of the Sears Tower, everybody just kept calling it the Sears Tower. It's like, we can still call it the Staples Center. Who wants to call it the Crypto.com Arena? That's a terrible name. But anyway, Dear Dance for me is a 2.
For me, it does keep the same score as Needles. In large part because I like the guitar work. I agree though that the Kesha effect is very strong here. And again, they have like the screaminess in it. So again, these songs are songs that I'm not really interested in revisiting. These, the number 2 and number 3, they are close to a 2.5. And not to get ahead of myself, but I feel like the first part of this album is a lot weaker compared to like the last 2/3.
But first, we talk about track number 4, Jet Pilot. Written by Darren Malakian, Serge Tankian, and Shavo Odagian. I'm butchering these names. My apologies. If only I sent all of this to you.
Yeah, I could have just read all of it, huh?
Literally, yeah. Maybe I'll just like edit in you saying their names every now and then. That might be kind of fun.
Yeah,
that'll
just
be more work for me.
and
but
over.
After this point, I think you're going to say their names. Anyway, this song was produced by Rick Rubin first, and
Daron Malakian.
this is from Genius. Jet Pilot is one of those songs that nobody really knows the meaning behind. Neither Serge Tankian, maybe. I don't know what that means, but I feel like this is a good place for me to say they don't tell you what the songs are about. You just kind of have to figure it out. They have a kind of motto as a band that the songs are about whatever they're about to them, and you have to make your own meaning, which I appreciate.
I like that.
But it does make it a little bit harder to talk about when some of them are abstract, you know? You don't really know what's going on. But this song is potentially about a series of carpet bombing attacks on Armenia. We don't know. They say their lyrics are always open to interpretation. And some fans speculate that the song talks about the shelling of Stepanakert,
Yes.
a bombardment in Armenia. I don't know how to say that city or place's name.
It's part of a war. It's a lot to get into. If you want to find out more, just Google it.
Yes, I will say that the band hadn't made music forever. And then in 2023, when this war was escalating, they reunited to make a few charity singles and donated all of the proceeds to, I don't know which fund it was, but it was something that helped out with the people who were being affected by the war, with the Armenians in Azerbaijan. Now, Jet Pilot, think about it a little bit. September 4th, 2001. Some people thought this song predicted 9/11. So that was kind of a little bit of an issue. That's kind of a theme of this time. So people were like, oh my God, they're Middle Eastern, therefore they are members of Al-Qaeda.
That's crazy.
Because that's the world that we lived in the early 2000s. And that's the world that everyone is desperately trying to bring back right now.
That's very
Anyway,
true.
shout out 9/11, I guess. 4 songs in a row on this album start with the same energy. And I feel like I'm kind of going crazy after listening to these 4 songs. It's just nonstop. The more this goes on, the more I'm wondering, is this Stockholm Syndrome? Am I actually starting to enjoy this? Probably not, but I do think the energy in this song is insane and kind of winning me over a little bit. This one is a 1.5 because most of this music I don't want to listen to again, but it is very interesting. And after a while, I was kind of like, maybe.
This and the next song are kind of the lows of the album because I didn't really like them. And the Kesha effect was in full effect here. It just doesn't feel like it comes together very much. It doesn't feel cohesive. And it doesn't feel as propulsive as any of the previous songs. It's a 2.5. I didn't really like this song. And I won't say what I thought about the next song yet, but it's kind of similar.
Well,
Kind of.
it's time for us to talk about the next song. Track number 5, Multiply. It's just stylized as X, but it is pronounced as Multiply. This one was written by
Serge Tankian and Darren Malakian. Boom.
This song was produced by
Daron Malakian.
and Rick Rubin. This song is about the Armenian genocide. And I'm sorry, but I do not want to listen to this again. This is a 1.
It's okay because I don't really like the song either. Pretty much for the same reasons. Like, I don't have anything to add. I also did not realize it was about that, but I can see it now that you say it. But I'm sorry, the song is just not that good. It's 2.5. I will say, this is kind of the end of the first section that I talked about that I feel like is a lot weaker. Because after this, I feel like it actually picks up quite a lot.
Well, it's time for one of the songs that could be your favorite. Track number 6, Chop Suey! ! Written by
Serge Tankian,
and
Daron Malakian,
produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
I got a lot to say about this song. Chop Suey has over 1 billion streams and is generally considered one of the band's greatest songs. So it must have been a huge hit, right? Well, it peaked at number 76 on the Hot 100. This whole next huge thing is all from Genius. Rick Rubin, who produced Toxicity for System of a Down, cites this song as one of his most important projects. He told Rolling Stone, this song was originally going to be called Self-Righteous Suicide, and the record company rebelled. I remember wanting to go to the mat and keep the title, and the band decided, let's call it Chop Suey, which I thought was kind of funny. Chop Suey is the Americanization of the Chinese quick dish, I assume pronounced chop suey, which means odds and ends, mixed bits in the Cantonese dialect. The song title is a play on self-right chop suey side.
Oh.
That's what it says on Genius. Sure, okay. And he says that has a further sort of humor in that they mixed up a controversial word into a nonsensical word to create a more radio-friendly title. Now, this song enjoyed success, climbing the charts after its August 2001 release, before virtually disappearing from airwaves after 9/11. The song's chorus, with its congratulatory self-righteous suicide and lament, "I cry when angels deserve to die," was considered a bit too raw for listeners at the time. In the wake of the tragedy, Clear Channel Communications, now known as iHeartMedia, put out a memo to its subsidiary radio stations temporarily blackballing but not outright banning it, along with 164 other lyrically questionable songs. Eventually, the record resurfaced on the charts, in part due to its earlier popularity, in part due to the lack of new singles released that September. However, it remains one of System of a Down's worst performing US singles, particularly relative to the song's global performance. And I cannot believe I've never mentioned this whole controversy around 9/11. They pulled so many songs. I said 164 on there.
Yeah.
And I think it was up to to other stations to choose if they wanted to pull other songs that maybe mentioned an airplane or something like that, because it was too much at the time.
That's crazy.
Now we have school shootings every day and bombings, and no one gives a shit. But at this time, this was a big deal. Kind of an interesting time. That's part of the reason that none of these songs really did that well on the charts, but are still remembered as being extremely popular, because 9/11. And radio is such a huge component of the Billboard Hot 100, basically up until this year when streaming is finally going to be more important. But yeah, it's very, very interesting time. So if your song wasn't on the radio, you were kind of fucked and you wouldn't make any money. To continue on with the last little bit of stuff I have to say. Although the lyrics were viewed as confrontational, the singer is actually challenging the listener to wake up and reconsider the way that they judge and deride people who are engaged in self-destructive behaviors. The song culminates in a biblical connection to Jesus before his death on the cross, with the singer ostensibly having chosen his self-righteous suicide so that these sinners would be forgiven. Now for my quick few little notes that I have. Oh my God, guys, there's melody. This is the song that I know by them. It's considered one of the best nu metal songs, and honestly is pretty good. Do I want to listen to it all the time? No. Will I turn it off if I heard it on the radio? Probably, but I would let it play a little bit more. This one is a 2.5.
I completely agree, and I feel like the reason why the rest of the album, starting with this song, is so much stronger is because there is actually melody. Like, they bring melody into the songs, most of them. And that's why I actually like this song. Particularly the quiet parts of the song, I think, stand out, because that's where you kind of hear the melody the most. And that extends to the opening too, which I do really like. This is a 3.5. It's a strong song for me. I don't love it. I think it's pretty good. It could be a lot stronger, but compared to a lot of the other songs on this album, it is quite strong.
Is this your favorite?
No.
Ooh, okay. What's the high score of your favorite?
We'll see.
Ooh, okay.
That's all I'll say.
Fun.
We'll see.
Track number 7, Bounce. Written by
Daron Malakian, Serge Tankian, Shavo Odadjian.
Produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
So this song is about an orgy, and this is my favorite of the nu metal songs on the album. This is a 2.5. It might be a 3. This song is insane, and it's a lot of fun. You know what? I'm going to make it a 3 right now. Why not?
Do it.
This is a good time. I like this one.
Pogo.
Pogo, pogo,
Pogo,
pogo.
pogo. Yeah, this song is absolutely crazy. I didn't realize it was about that. Me, with my non-lyric listening ears, thought this was literally just about pogo sticks, which, hey, I'll still take it. This is a 3. It's not as strong as the best songs on the album, but I do enjoy this. It's pretty good. It's all right. It's solid. I'll say that. And hey, we're actually in agreement on a score, finally.
Track number 8, Forest. Written by
Daron Malakian
and
Serge Tankian.
Produced by
Daron Malakian
and Rick Rubin. This song could be about God and Jesus, and I don't have anything to say about it. It's a 2.
That's interesting. Because I feel like this song has a lot of melody in it, much more than pretty much all the previous ones. And I think it actually does a great job of mixing not heavy metal, but the nu metal, whatever it's called, with melody. And that gives it a very good, like 3.5. I could see this song in the future going to a 4, even though I don't think it will. But I think with just how much melody there was in it, it just actually really worked for me, and I was surprised. I gotta say, I was surprised by how many songs I was given 3.5, because I did not think I would like this that much. But it just works.
It speaks to you. I wonder why.
And not just because they're Armenian. Well, we'll see.
Track number 9, ATWA, written by
Daron Malakian
and
Serge Tankian,
produced by
Daron Malakian
and Rick Rubin. This song means air, trees, water, and animals, which was a mandate spoken by Charles Manson, who was a big influence to Darren. So do with that what you will.
So Armenians gotta get freaky sometimes.
Exactly. In case bounce wasn't enough for you, you got to get freaky with Charles Manson now.
Exactly.
I wrote one note about this song ever, and it was the first time I listened to it. And I said, why does this song sound like a Beatles song for a second? And that was what I had to say. For some reason, subsequent listens as well, I listened to this song a few more times, and I was like, it sounds like there's a part of it that just sounds like a Beatles song. I don't know what it is. This one's a 2. It's fine. A lot of these songs aren't as memorable to me in the second half of the album, but I do agree with you that they are stronger, I think. They're more cohesive. There's a little bit more going on to them. It's just like not my style, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say outside of that.
But going back to your Beatles point, that's ironic considering that the Beatles wrote a song called Helter Skelter in reference to Charles Manson, obviously.
Shout out Charles Manson. Big fan, I guess.
I will skip saying anything about that. Anyways.
That's for you.
Yeah, I think that this is similar to Forest in terms of how it blends, the melody with the screaming and all that. I don't think it does it as well, but it's still a 3.5. It still works for me. I just don't think it's as strong. That being said, this probably has one of my favorite, if not my favorite openings of any song on the whole album. I do really like it. I didn't realize that it was had anything to do with Charles Manson, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way you could have unless you knew what ATWA meant, and I did not. I'm not really a big Charles Manson head.
I honestly thought it had something to do with like an airport or something.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
You know how the airports each has its own acronym? Yeah, that's what I thought too.
ATW's Appleton, Wisconsin. That's the airport I fly out of, so it's pretty close. Shout out.
Shout out.
Track number 10, Science, written by
Daron Malakian
and
Serge Tankian,
produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
This song is about science versus religion, and it's kind of up to you how you want to interpret it. It could be pro-science, it could be pro-faith, it could be both. I don't know, and I don't think we ever will know. I do think that this is one of the more intriguing songs on the album. I think this one's pretty interesting. It caught my ear more than the other songs on the second half of the album. And yeah, so I gave it a 2.5. I was a little bit more curious about it.
That's ironic because to me, it feels like this song tries to do what the last 2 songs did in terms of mixing melody in, and kind of fails. Not fails, because it still kind of works, but I don't think it is as cohesive here. And that's why I give this song a 3. It's still all right, but it's not as... It doesn't come together for me as much as I would like it to. And that's something that maybe will continue to the next song.
Track number 11, Shimmy. This one's only written by
Serge Tankian,
and it's produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
This song is about indoctrination, and I wrote one note on this song. I think the album might be growing on me a little bit.
Ooh, yes, I like that.
Ironically, the 2 songs that you don't like from this side are the 2 that I'm kind of like, maybe they're all right. This one's a 2.5. It's not like a good score, but it's an average score, and it's like, you know what? I don't hate this. This is all right.
I'm happy to hear that.
2.5 for Shimmy, and I'm expecting a 2.5 from you too, maybe.
I don't dislike it that much because, again, I still think it's a lot stronger than the first part. I will say Shimmy, along with Science and another song that we will talk about soon, are, in my opinion, the weaker songs in this kind of second 2/3 of the album. That being said, I still think that they're stronger than a lot of the songs on the first part. For me, the reason why this song didn't work specifically was it felt closer to heavy metal, which obviously I don't know much about it. I could be totally wrong and it's closer to something else, but whatever it was closer to just didn't work as much for me. Maybe because I felt like there was less melody or something like that, but it just didn't connect as much. It's still an interesting song. I won't turn it off or anything, but it's sitting at a 3, and I don't think it's going to go up. Although I don't think it's going to go down either.
Track number 12, Toxicity, written by
Daron Malakian, Serge Tankian,
and
Shavo Odadjian,
produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
This song is huge. It's got over 1 billion streams. Peaked at number 70 on the Hot 100. But it did peak at 25 on the UK singles chart. It is also, like Chop Suey, considered one of the best nu metal songs ever. And this is another one of the band's signature hits. The original concept for this song was actually brought by Shavo Odadjian, who was not one of the primary songwriters. The primary songwriters were, of course, Darren and Serge. It almost did not make the album, but it's probably a good thing that it did because it is one of their biggest hits. I see why this one was a hit. I think it blends the heavy elements with the melody elements very well. Unfortunately, I don't really care for this song, and I'd much rather listen to Chop Suey. This one is a 2.
I have a history with this song. Obviously, this is their most favorite song, so this was one of the songs. This was one of 2 songs that I knew from them before we went into this album. Those being obviously this and Chop Suey. And I remember, I want to say at least several years ago, I actually watched the music video for this song. And I was like, I don't really like that. That does not work for me. So when I was listening to the album for this episode, when I reached Toxicity, I was like, oh, damn, like I'm going to have, I'm going to not like it. And people are going to be like, he doesn't like the famous one, et cetera, et cetera. And I got to say, I don't know what I was thinking the first time I heard this, because there's a reason, at least in my opinion, why this is their most famous song. Again, this genre is not really for me, I don't feel like, but maybe it is based off my scores, because this song is really good. It's a 4. It's an amazing blend of like, what is it called? Nu metal? I feel like I keep on saying the wrong thing.
Nu metal and alternative metal.
I think it's an amazing blend of nu metal with, softer melodies. Even though I never would have thought that I would like this, it just works. To the point where I have revisited this song multiple times, including going back to the music video. Hey, life is full of surprises.
I mean, this is interesting. I like Chop Suey, and I think that's one of the best songs on the album. You like Toxicity and think that's one of the best songs on the album. Yeah. We both like one of their hits, and it's the other one. So that's kind of interesting. They both are huge, and it seems like they both are huge for a reason. Yeah,
I agree. I will say this is not my favorite song, though.
Oh, wow. So I still could be right.
You still can be right.
Track number 13, Psycho, written by
Daron Malakian
and
Serge Tankian,
produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
This song is about groupies.
Ooh.
You really don't have to be a hoe. I assume you wrote that down.
Yes.
And I don't really know what else to say about this song. It's fine, but psycho, groupie, cocaine, crazy. So this is a 2 for me.
Yeah. This song it's fun, but it is one of the 3 songs that I talked about that is not as strong to me in this part of the album. I do really, really love the guitar in this album. In this song. Let me just say that. But ultimately, I think the loud parts of the song take away from the quiet parts. And that is why it is at a 3. Although I think the guitar kind of saves it from going down to a 2.5 or anything like that. Yeah, not much to say except for Ho.
Shout out Ho. Shout out all my hoes listening to this.
All my hoes.
Big fan. I don't know why I said that. Track number 14, Aerials. This one is written by all 4 members of the band.
Nice.
And it's produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
This song peaked at number 55 on the Hot 100, the best chart position of any of the 3 singles. And ironically, this is the only single that is under 1 billion streams, and people don't remember this one as much as the other 2. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Shout out 9/11 for that.
That's really ironic.
This is one of the better songs on the album, and weirdly, I don't think it's that memorable. And I feel like that's kind of the reason why it didn't stick around as much. Like if I heard this on the radio in 2001, I'd be like, this is pretty good. But
Yeah, I
if
agree.
you told me like hum this song right now, could not tell you. I could do Toxicity. I could do Chop Suey. Don't think I could do this one though. But I still liked this one. And I do want to say that Darren said this song is about nothing. So that's pretty great.
I love that.
This one is a 2.5 for me.
I honestly agree with everything you said. I did want to add though, this song was interesting to me because it almost felt like they were moving slightly away from new metal with this song. Like I felt like the style was just a little bit different compared to everything else on the album. I don't know, I feel like it's an interesting blend that in some ways made it stick out, even though like you said, it's not memorable in the same way that Toxicity or Chop Suey are. It's a 3.5. I don't think it's as strong as those two songs, but I could see the song kind of going up to 4 in the future. Yeah, I don't know, just a really interesting song compared to the other songs on this album. And I feel like what I said about it moving away from new metal will kind of be continued in the next song.
We have one final song here. I'm about to blow your mind here. This is track number 14 and a half, Ardo.
Ooh.
So this song is track 15 on streaming. This song is actually a hidden song, though, on physical releases of this album. This was a bonus song. It followed Aerials after like 3 minutes of silence, I believe. And then all of a sudden, this song just starts playing at the end. Gotta say, love when bands do this. This is one of my favorite things ever. And one of the best things about having physical media is when you have these bonus tracks. This is a big thing that Coldplay did throughout their entire career. Even up until like 2015, that album, they were still doing a bonus like hidden track on every album. And I think that's just super fun. And I'm a big fan of that. However, when you are on streaming, it's different because you want to listen to individual songs. And they did the correct thing, which is not keeping this as a bonus track, like hidden track on streaming, and turning it into an actual track by itself. So you can listen to the song whenever you want to, and you don't have to listen to the first, whatever it would be, 6 minutes probably of Aerials and then the silence. So without further ado, track number 14 and a half or 15, Ardo, written by Ardo Tunçboyanstian or whatever.
We apologize.
It's produced by Rick Rubin and
Daron Malakian.
So Ardo is playing an instrument on this song called the duduk.
That's right.
It is a double reed woodwind instrument from Armenia. I don't know anything about it, but it is sick as hell. I was doing some research, and it was actually played on the soundtrack of Dune, which we watched on this podcast.
It is
Very cool instrument.
one of my favorite instruments of all time. And the reason it was used in Dune is because Hans Zimmer is also crazy about it. He's used it in a bunch of his soundtracks. And props to him. And honestly, more recently, it's been popping up in a lot of soundtracks.
Yes, it's a very unique instrument that kind of sounds somewhere between a flute and a clarinet, but it's also a lot like earthier of a sound than either of those.
It's a very, very specific sound. It's also very hard to play. If you see the people playing it, their cheeks literally look like balloons because of the amount of air you got to like breathe into it. It's kind of crazy. I would love to learn. I don't think I could though.
Yeah, I don't know that I have that much lung capacity.
Yeah, same.
Well, this is the final track. I have not told you my favorite song. So this is my favorite song. This is a 3. This might actually be a 3.5.
Oh my God.
This is a traditional Armenian folk song. It's in that style. I don't know if it's technically a cover or if it's like a reinterpretation. I couldn't find a definitive answer on that.
Right.
But I think this is the best song on here. You know, we get a little bit of, I don't want to say Bruce Springsteen effect because I think the rest of the album is good, but this is the most different song and I do like it a lot. Maybe this is Black Sabbath effect, you know. I feel like that's a little bit more accurate for me.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really fun song and it's pretty cool that this was like the bonus track at the end of the album because it's so unique and it's like a treat, a reward for anyone who listened to the album all the way through and made it like past Aerials and the silence. So yeah, this one is my favorite and I'm going to put all of my money down and say that this one is also your favorite.
That's right. We finally, I know it's happened before, but it's been so long.
It's rare.
We finally have the same favorite song. I adore this song. Obviously, like you said, it is either, a cover or reinterpretation of a folk song. I don't know which one, just because I don't think I've heard this folk song specifically, or if I have, I guess it's just so different the way they did it that I didn't connect the dots. This song should be a 5 just because they brought in the duduk again. That's one of the best instruments in the world, in my opinion. And I think it brings so much to it. I will say, when the voice comes in, I still really like it, but I kind of wish it was all instrumental in some ways. That being said, I still love it. No notes. And before I give my score, I just got to say, I bet the new metal fans absolutely hated this song when they heard it because they were like, what the hell is this? This is a 4. In some ways, I think if it was instrumental, it could be a 4.5. But honestly, I could see this going up to 4.5 the way that it is. I need to really listen to it again.
I feel like this song is perfect for fitting in with all of your soundtrack songs that you listen to.
Yeah,
it's just got that like vibe to it. Like this could easily be in a movie.
Oh, 100%. I think that's why they use it in movies so much. The duduk, that not the song, because it just works for a lot of stuff. Like it works to create a certain tone.
It really does. It's very cool, super unique, and I'm glad that they have an homage to their Armenian culture and upbringing.
Absolutely.
I don't believe all 4 of them were born in Armenia, but all 4 of them were born somewhere else and then came to LA.
Yeah.
So they have some sort of like connection to, I believe, Lebanon, Iran, Armenia, that region of the world. On that note, we have reached the end of the album. I have a little paragraph that I wrote here, and then I would like to hear what you have to say about the album overall. So I'm going to get mine out of the way real quick because, I think you're going to be a little bit more positive than I am. I have spoken about my inability to connect to leftist media, and unfortunately, this is no exception. However, most of the time, I don't see a point in a lot of leftist media or a reason for it to exist in the way that it presently does. That's where this album is an exception. I don't like new metal. I never have, and I don't think I'll ever love it, although I do have the capacity to like it more than I do now. But this is an album where I can see why it exists, and it actually has a lot of merit. It's just, for me, a Childish Gambino effect, where this is not really something that catches my ear as much as other things do. I wish I liked it more, but I am glad that there's an audience out there for it, and that these guys are getting the respect and adoration that they deserve, because I think they're all incredibly talented, and they're obviously on the correct side of history. So,
absolutely.
I enjoyed my time listening to this. I'm glad I did. This isn't necessarily for me, but, I can mark this off the list of 500 albums I need to hear in my lifetime or whatever that is. So, David, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you have to say about this album as a whole? And you can answer my question as well. Will you listen to the album as a whole again or anything from it? Which I think that latter part is a yes.
Yes. So I will answer your question first. I will not be returning to the album just because life is short. There's other stuff that I'd rather listen to, but I will definitely be listening to Ardo and Toxicity, maybe even throw in some other ones like Chop Suey, for instance. So yes, I will be revisiting parts of this album for sure. And I should add this to a playlist. I just don't know which one because I don't have like a heavy metal, new metal, anything like that playlist. So maybe I'll just add it to my rock one, go against the grain. This was an interesting experience for me because I feel like when you're from an ethnicity that's very small, especially one that has gone through like a lot of bad stuff, whether it's something that ethnicity did to itself or other ethnicities did to it, there is kind of this, not pressure, but this want to automatically like anything that has to do with that ethnicity as a way of support almost. And before any of you guys say, oh, but you hate Kim Kardashian, she's not Armenian, so that doesn't count. So there was definitely this feeling of, I want to like this just because they're Armenian. When I was listening to this album, though, I was actively trying not to do that and push back against that, because I don't, as much as I love my people, I also don't want to like lie and say, oh, I like it just because they're Armenian. That actually didn't end up like being a problem at all, though, because in spite of what I thought I didn't like, I actually liked a lot of this, and I was surprised by how much I did like it, especially the latter half of the album. And it's actually a little bit ironic because I remember the day before I was going to listen to the album, Jennifer and I, we were in a vinyl store, and on the wall we saw a CD for this album. And I remember she pointed out, she said, oh, System of a Down, you know, they're Armenian. And I was like, oh yeah. And I told her I'm going to listen to that tomorrow, and I'm thinking that I probably won't like it that much because I don't like, you know, heavy metal and that sort of stuff. And she said, oh, you might be surprised because I like what I've heard from them. So she kind of predicted that I would like them more than I thought that I would. And she was right, because yeah, it worked. It's not, you know, my favorite genre. It's not something that I'm going to return to too much. But like I said, I've already returned to Toxicity. So it's something that I definitely do like. And I'm honestly very interested to hear some of their other albums, even though I know that this album kind of has their most well-regarded work. I'm going to sum that up with my score ultimately. It is a 3.5, because I do think that, you know, the first part of this album is weaker. And like I said, even though I did like it, it's not, you know, my favorite type of music. It stands out in a few specific places more than as a whole. So that's why it is a 3.5, which, hey, is still a good score. And that's kind of what I have to say. And also shout out to all the members, because I think that they do great stuff outside of their music too.
Yeah, exactly. My score is a 2.5 for this album. I feel like it's fine. It's all right. I don't think it's for me, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I can see the artistry, and I respect it a lot, and I'm glad I listened to it, like I said. Will they ever release another album? It's been 20 years. Who knows, genuinely. None of the members really know. And there have been some recent comments that are more like, all right, Serge, like, it's time to apologize. Let's get back in the studio. We all want to make an album. Like, but
come on, bro.
Who knows? We'll see. But I think it would be good. I'd be curious to see what they have to say now, because there's a lot of stuff happening in the world that, you know, they definitely have opinions on. And nu metal, as it was 20 years ago, does not exist, really. So I would be curious to see kind of where they take their sound, their style, or honestly, if they just go back and make another nu metal album, and who knows, it might be great. Guys, if you're listening, please make up with each other, make another album. We know David would buy it.
Yeah.
And we know he would tell all of his friends to buy it too.
I would force all my friends to buy it. I would force every single one of them, including you. You'd have to buy 5 copies.
Shout out Armenia. And on that note, it's time to talk about war.
That's right. We are talking about war. Specifically about French people going to war, even though none of them look like French people. We're talking about Paths of Glory, our first Stanley Kubrick film, because we had to cover one of his movies sooner than later.
And our first war film, too.
Also, one of our oldest films. Not our oldest, but one of our oldest. So I'm going to start with the IMDb logline, as usual, and I want to know what you think. So here goes. A colonel defends 3 of his soldiers in a court-martial after they abandoned a suicidal attack.
That's decent. I feel like it misses kind of some of the setup, but
it's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. It does its job for the most part.
It misses the central, like, driving force of the film.
Yeah.
You know, like the general versus the colonel. But it is what it is. Let's get the credits out of the way. The film is obviously directed by Stanley Kubrick. It's written by Stanley Kubrick, Calder Willingham, and Jim Thompson. It's adapted from the novel Paths of Glory by Humphrey Cobb. It's produced by James B. Harris. The cinematography is by George Krause. I said it. I actually said it right. Hell yeah. It's edited by Eva Kroll, and the music is composed by Gerald Fried or Freed. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. Apologies. And the film is distributed by United Artists. It stars Kirk Douglas, Ralph Meeker, George McCready, and Adolph Menjou, which is a name you don't hear much anymore.
Wonder why.
Yeah. We obviously got to start with the novel. It's a novel by Humphrey Cobb that was released in 1935 that dramatizes the real life affair of the, and this is a French word, so I have no idea how to properly pronounce it, but I will try, the something corporal's affair of WW1, where 4 French soldiers were executed under, another French name, General Gérard Ravaillac, for disobeying orders. When it came out, it caught Stanley Kubrick's eye, or I guess not when it came out, but at some point it caught Stanley Kubrick's eye. And he was taken by the story, and he quickly bought the film rights for $10,000. And he was very interested in making a war film because, as he has said, quote, "One of the attractions of a war or crime story is that it provides an almost unique opportunity to contrast an individual or our contemporary society with a solid framework of accepted value, which the audience becomes fully aware of and which can be used as a counterpoint to human, individual, and emotional situations." End quote. So he was interested in pretty much moral dilemmas, that sort of thing, and how war can shape them. Now, he had made a film at this point, but he was very early in his career, and the film that he had made, called The Killing, underperformed at the box office. It was well received, though, enough so that it caught the attention of Dory Sherry, who was in a high position at MGM. I think he was in charge at that point, but I don't know exactly what position he had. In any case, the important thing is that he hired Kubrick, but he didn't want to do Paths of Glory because he was like, this is not commercial at all. You know, who would want to go watch a dreary war film about people getting executed? No one. Luckily, there was a shakeup at MGM that resulted in Sherry being fired. Kubrick saw his opening and he went to Kirk Douglas with the script. Now, Kirk Douglas at this point is a big star known for films like Lust for Life, The Bad and the Beautiful, just a bunch of movies. He was a big leading man at the time, famously died at the age of like 101 in 2017 or something like that, and the father of Michael Douglas. Now, he was impressed by both The Killing and the script, and he agreed to be in the film, and his agreement got an advance of $1 million from United Artists, and eventually they agreed to fund the whole film when Douglas brought in his own company, Brinna Production Company, into the mix, which is actually named after his mom. Eventually, Kubrick brought in Calder Willingham to do revisions on the script, and I was trying to find how Jim Thompson was involved. It's a little murky, but it seems like he worked on some earlier drafts. That being said, it is a little murky, so I'm not 100% sure at which point he came in.
I did want to ask you, what other movie did Calder Willingham write? Because I know there was another one. I recognized that name.
Oh, you know what he worked on? He worked on The Graduate. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah. So that's kind of a fun connection.
That is a fun connection. And not to get ahead of us, but I feel like you can kind of see the connection in terms of the quality of the work, at least when it comes to the dialogue. In any case, even though it looks like Thompson's involvement is kind of murky, Kubrick and Willingham were working together. Kubrick made a lot of changes. This included focusing more on Dax and changing the ending of the film to a happier one, because as Kubrick saw it, that would make it more commercial, and he wanted to make a commercial film. In this ending, the soldiers were pardoned at the last moment, and this resulted in a major argument with Douglas, because he literally blew up at Kubrick when he saw this new version of the script. And I actually have this quote from him. I believe it's from one of the books he wrote. Quote, I called Stanley to my room. I hit the ceiling. I called him every 4-letter word I could think of. I got the money based on that original script, not this shit. I threw the script across the room. We're going back to the original script or we're not making the picture. Stanley never blinked an eye. We shot the original script. I think the movie is a classic, one of the most important pictures, possibly the most important picture Stanley Kubrick has ever made, end quote. So that was his view on the film. And he, as it says in the quote, was able to get Kubrick to go back to the original script and get rid of the ending. It does seem like the changes he made with having Dax be one of the main characters were kept in, because you can kind of see that in the film. But obviously, the happy ending did not stay. Now, the film was shot in Germany, in Bavaria. They did use German police as soldiers because they had some military training. And the last scenes to be filmed were the battleground scenes that took months to set up because of just how big the set pieces were. I did want to say one of the actors, Timothy Carey, had to be fired because he was difficult to work with, including faking his own kidnapping,
Jesus.
which is fun. I don't know why, but that's what he did. The rest of his scenes were shot using doubles, which is maybe why I kept on confusing every character with another character in this movie.
I mean, that's good to hear because I did that the whole time and I was like, who are these people for like half the movie?
Literally every character that isn't one of the generals or Kirk Douglas, I mixed up. So
yeah, I was like, oh, Scar dude.
Yes.
The guy who talks weird and Kirk Douglas. And those were like the ones where I was like, I'm certain I know who these people are.
Now, this movie shoot was also a good example of Kubrick's desire for control. Obviously, he's famous for the amount of takes he would shoot on his later films and just how like dictatorial he was on set. And you can kind of see that starting to bubble up little by little with this film. He reportedly made Adolphe Menjou do one scene 17 times. And when Menjou said, that was my best read, I think we can break for lunch now, Kubrick was like, no, he made him do it again and again until Menjou went into an absolute fury. He started just yelling at Kubrick. He yelled at him about Kubrick's dubious parentage and made unprintable references to Kubrick's greenness in the art of directing actors, etc., etc. And it seems like Kubrick just listened to it. And when he finally finished, he was just like, all right, let's do the scene one more time. And Menjou did it. And he was like, all right, I'll just do it again. So,
is Kubrick the original Ridley Scott?
Honestly, kind of, but worse.
Yeah, this sounds like hell. I don't understand being an actor during this time. It'd be like I would like probably pull a William Friedkin and pull out a gun on somebody because like that's just like what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Just you wait until we get to The Shining and you hear what he did to poor Shelley Duvall. He would oftentimes like make actors do over 100 takes, like no joke. So very hard to work with.
I just don't understand the purpose of that really. Like, I mean, I obviously I cut vocals. I've worked with other people singing before. Like you got to do a few takes, but like once you get past like 8 takes, it's like, okay, we've kind of explored every range of outcome of this. Like what else can you accomplish?
I feel like Kubrick had this idea that if he tired actors out, like if he exhausted them with takes, at some point they would stop acting and just be in the moment, which might be true, but it's also like, an actor is an actor because they can act something and make it look real. I will say Kubrick has also been noted as not the best director of actors. Like he is lauded for his work in terms of the cinematography and like those elements more versus the acting, and you can see that here too. I feel like
I think somewhere deep in my heart I knew that because I don't, without like spoiling my score, I feel like there's something I can feel about this movie that likens it to another director, another one of the great directors that I may not like as much. I'll leave it at that.
Even if you maybe can't feel the divide as much here as you can in some of his other films in terms of like his focus on the technical side more than the acting. It definitely was going on behind the scenes. And I actually have a quote from actor Richard Anderson because he said, quote, "As soon as we started shooting, I knew immediately what Stanley was interested in. The shot, always the shot. He worked with George Krauss, the German cinematographer, to make sure that everything looked like a newsreel of World War I. Kubrick had studied many photographs of the war in the library. The film was low-keyed and had a grainy look to it. That's what Stanley was interested in," end quote. Like, so his attention was already just, how does it look? And that's his bottom line. I also wanted to say, the only woman you see in the whole film, the woman who sings for the soldiers at the end of the film, is played by Christiane Harlan. She and Kubrick would fall in love on set and marry, remaining together for the rest of their lives until Kubrick's death.
Wow. So does this film pass the Bechdel test?
I guess because she wasn't talking about men, she was just singing. I don't know.
No, it's because there have to be two women.
That's right. There have to be two. Yeah, I forgot.
Fail.
I forgot that part of it. It failed. It absolutely failed. But this film didn't, because when it was released in 1958, it made a modest $1.2 million on its budget of $900,000, which I guess I've used the 2.5 rule is a fail, but I don't even know if that applies here because it's like 1958. Who knows what the studio economics were? And it received no Oscar nominations at all, but it still received positive reviews, and it helped to raise Kubrick's standing as a director, and in large part helped him to go on to make like the movies that he made after this and have the leeway that he had with those movies. Although some critics did have problems with the film, such as the colloquial English dialogue and the grim plot. And it seems like in general, the screenplay was the thing that people called out the most with problems. And it was also very, 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 very controversial, specifically in France and some other European countries because of its portrayal of the French army. The French actually pressured United Artists into pulling the film from release, and it wasn't shown in France until 1975, which is crazy. But honestly, tracks for most countries. Of course, nowadays, this film is considered to be a classic and one of Kubrick's best earlier, if not in general, films. And it is well respected as one of the best anti-war films ever made. And with that, I got some questions for you. We kind of answered the first one because I said, just how confused did you get between all the soldiers and the fact that they all had the same mustache and goatee? Also, are these the most American French people you've ever seen, aside from the very British French people in this film?
I would say yes. These are the most non-French people I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I didn't even realize until like an hour into the movie that it was supposed to be the French army. I thought this was like the United States Army in France, and they were like conducting their business in like French buildings because they were like, oh, we don't want to fly everybody back to the US. No, I genuinely had no idea this was supposed to be in France for a long time. I mean, like the French army, I knew it was in France, like physically, even though it's actually in Germany, but you know, whatever.
You watch this and you're like, these are not French people. Like they do not seem like French people at all. Yeah, and I got confused between the soldiers too. And I've seen this film before. This was not my first time seeing it, and I still got confused. That being said, it still works for me. Like, yeah, it takes me out of it a little bit. But now that we kind of got the fun question out of the way, we got to talk about the reason why this film is most well known, and that is because of its anti-war messaging, which I guess leads me to the question of, do you feel like this film is anti-war? And what do you think of its message?
I feel like this is definitely anti-war. I think the message is not necessarily we shouldn't go to war. It's more just like bureaucracy and like kind of this idea that you have to be a man is stupid. Do I agree with that message? Yes. Do I think it accomplished that well? No, not at all. I feel like you get that idea, but this is kind of where I bring up my criticism of left-leaning things. I feel like there's no emotion in this. I feel like the only emotion is the guy's about to die, and that's the only time you feel anything. And that's kind of my big problem with this is it's just like kind of going through the motions, which I get it has to. It's military, it's kind of cold, it's calculated, but there's not a lot of human element to it for most of the runtime of the film, I would say.
That's interesting because that's something else that a lot of people have noted about Stanley Kubrick's work, and that is that there is not much emotion in his films. Like a lot of his films are very emotionally flat. For me, I do feel like the person bringing emotion to this film and making it work is Kirk Douglas.
I agree.
I feel like his performance, I think, brings enough emotion that it makes this film honestly really work for me as an anti-war film. And it makes its message feel both very prescient and just very like kind of always prescient. Because I feel like what it's talking about is always a thing. People like the general are always present, and not just in armies, like in companies, in anything where they are willing to sacrifice anyone for their own like personal bottom line or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's kind of the biggest thing is those people are always present. And they're always present in those positions of power because they always like to flex that and be like, look what I can do. I can kill people. I can fire people. I can make them suffer. And it's a very much like a real world thing because that's basically been every number 2 in every company I've worked for is like the vice president, they're always those type of people. It's like, ugh, yikes.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Just how much this feels like watching, the people working at a company to me, like it perfectly correlates to that. And you could put this film in that setting. It would work like that. I also did want to ask, I don't have a lot of questions about this film just because in a lot of ways, I feel like this film is very like self-explanatory if you watch it, and there's not too much we could say about it aside from talking about like a few specifics. I do want to ask in general, and I know we've kind of touched upon some of these elements, but considering that this is your first Stanley Kubrick film, what did you think of it in general? And what do you think of, like, does anything stand out to you that you might tie to him in terms of like the way it looks or the way it's directed or shot or anything like that? And are you interested in more Kubrick films?
I have a few things that I feel like fit with Stanley Kubrick. One of them is something that you brought up, which is kind of that lack of emotion. Obviously, he co-wrote this. I feel like there is kind of a almost like deadpan feeling to the film overall. The other thing is I feel like a lot of shots go on for too long. Not necessarily scenes go on for too long. Just certain shots just feel like, okay, I get the idea. Like, I see it, And I feel like that's kind of more of the visual part of him that's like, this looks so beautiful, I want to keep it up for longer because look at how good I am. I feel like it is akin to a director that I talked about, Francis Ford Coppola, where we kind of like are sacrificing the story a little bit for other aspects of the film. Am I interested in watching another Kubrick movie? Probably, because I think there's going to be one that I enjoyed more than this. Do I think I'm ever going to rate one above a 3.5? No, I don't think so. I could be wrong, but that's my initial read.
I'll be very intrigued to see. I wanted to say, so to those points, I completely agree about the emotional, like the lack of emotion. That's something you absolutely see throughout his films. And I think for some of his films, they absolutely do detract from them. I feel like with this film, it's maybe less present than some other films, which might be crazy to you, but I do feel like that is true in this case, in large part because of Kirk Douglas, who we should probably talk about too at some point, but it does work here because of him. I feel like my favorite films of Kubrick's work in spite of that emotional, like in spite of that lack of emotion because of other reasons. So here it's because of Kirk Douglas, and with my favorite film of his, which is Barry Lyndon, it's because that like lack of emotion fits the style of film that it is.
I mean, that kind of reminds me of what we talked about with Wes Anderson, where it's just like you got to find that right thing for kind of the lack of emotion. So maybe there is a chance that I will like a Kubrick movie more, and maybe it will be that one.
I will say Barry Lyndon is a like 3.5 hour like period piece. So I don't know how much you will like that.
Maybe. Who knows?
But the reason why it works for me is because it's not a story in the sense of beginning, middle, and character arc, stuff like that. It's kind of like just watching someone's life in a way, but in a good way. And I feel like because of that, the lack of emotion works because it doesn't feel like I don't know, it's hard to explain. We will talk about it more when we get to that film. But to your second point about the shots, I kind of have to push back because I think that The Godfather, for instance, looks absolutely amazing. I am a big fan of longer shots. Like, I don't think that they can't be too long. I agree there that they can be too long, but I can't think of any that are too long in The Godfather. So I do slightly disagree there, but it definitely does feel like in this case, Stanley Kubrick is kind of still learning how long to hold a shot, because I do kind of agree here. I noticed some of the shots, but generally you don't want to notice them too much. And I did in some ways. Like I noticed how long they're being held. And in some ways they did feel a little bit artificial. And I feel like that's maybe because of how, because of the fact that he is still figuring things out as a director in terms of the look. That being said, I still think that this film looks really, really good. The two elements that really make it work for me are A, the dialogue, and B, Kirk Douglas. I did not remember how good this dialogue was. In my opinion, it's incredibly well written. It just flows really, really well. And when you pair that with Kirk Douglas, I feel like he gives the best performance in this film. It's understated while being kind of like emotionally explosive at the same time. At least that's my read on it. And I feel like it helps to drive the film's messaging home. That was kind of my impression of the film. Those two elements kind of made it for me and kind of elevated the film from being just a good film to being a really good one, in my opinion. And I say that as someone that likes Kubrick, that respects him a lot, but doesn't think he's like the best director ever. I think he's a good director. I think in some ways he was an amazing director, but I think he was also a director that had a lot of problems that could detract from some of his work. And I feel like in some ways the lack of emotion is maybe present because of him and is only kind of saved by Kirk Douglas. And that's kind of my view of the film. I'm going to throw out my score right now and say that it is a 4.5. Now, I know in some ways I sounded very negative. I do think that ultimately this film is a fantastic war film with a great lead performance, and it does still really look good. Like, I'm not saying that Kubrick did terrible work. He did really good work, even if I had my issues with it, and even if I feel like some parts of it aren't as strong and are kind of saved by Kirk Douglas and the dialogue. And that's kind of my shtick about it. It's also not my favorite war film or anti-war film, but it's up there.
The last thing I'll say is not necessarily that I thought Coppola's shots were too long. I guess it's more of Coppola, Ridley Scott just are focused on other things that don't matter to me, ultimately, as an audience member.
Okay, I get you now.
Because it feels like, yeah, the movie looks good. Technically, there's no problems with it, but it feels like there's something wrong. In the case of Ridley Scott, it was the script. I mean, I guess it's always the script for me. It comes back to what's on the page. That
I agree with Ridley Scott with Blade Runner for sure.
Yeah, I just feel like there's just some things that just don't work in screenplays, and I feel like for me, this one is just the lack of emotion. And then you pair that with kind of these overly long, grandiose shots. I feel like another thing that kind of detracted from it was the audio is really bad. I get like it was the 50s. We watched movies that are older than this that you could hear more. I feel like a big problem was the acoustics of that like government hall or whatever they were shooting in were super bad, and they did not position the mics correctly. Maybe that's a first-time director thing. Maybe that's a Stanley Kubrick cared way more about how it looked than how it sounded, which Who knows? We don't know. He's not alive. I can't ask him. I saw your score for this one before, and I was wondering if it changed because I knew you had seen this movie before. And I watched this with my dad, actually. And when it was over, he was like, "Did you like that?" And I said, "Not really." And he said, "Okay, I didn't either." Which was interesting because usually when a movie's over, I say, "Did you like that?" And he says, "Yeah, it was pretty good." And I say, "I didn't like it." So this was kind of a different feeling after finishing this movie. I kind of was just left with the idea of, okay, like, cool, it exists. Like, that's all I feel, and I feel nothing else. And for that reason, this movie is a 2 for me. Is it fine? Does it look fine? Does it function as a movie? Yes. Does it do anything well? Not particularly, in my opinion. Do I want to watch it again? Not at all. And yeah, I don't think it's even average. I think it's below average. So for me, this is a 2. This was not a good indication of Stanley Kubrick's movies in the future for me.
I guess we'll just have to watch some more.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. I have a feeling that he's going to be one of those directors where film nerds love him because his stuff looks great. I have a feeling that's going to happen with a lot of these big name directors because, like I've said many times on here, for me, the story is everything. And if you don't have a good story, I do not care what you have to say.
I got to say, I think Spielberg is just going to be your favorite, like, 70s, 80s director, to be honest.
He's going to be my favorite, like, of the great directors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which honestly,
I never would have guessed.
Because he is one of, if not my favorite. Like, he is just so good. And, you know, what I said about Kubrick still stands. I have issues with him as a filmmaker, even though I think, like, in some ways he is insanely talented. I think in some ways he's lacking something.
Yeah.
This was an interesting episode, man, because I never would have thought that we'd have an episode where I liked both the music and the film more. I feel like that's never happened before.
I agree. I don't think that has. I feel like usually when this happens, I have liked the music more than you. But this time you liked both things better than me. And, you know, that's a new dynamic for us. It's interesting.
You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. So you never know if we're going to go to war with Venezuela tomorrow. So who knows? Maybe Greenland is next. By the time this episode comes out, we could be in a war with Denmark.
Who knows?
Like, who fucking knows at this point?
Hey, it's a good thing that we're both too stupid to be in the army. Wait, I take that back. That is a prerequisite for the army.
Oh,
we're kind of fucked.
Burn. But, you know, we may not know what's going to happen with wars in the future, but we do know one constant. And that one constant is that we will be posting every Sunday on our Instagram account, letting you know that the episode is out and letting you know what next week's episode is so you can watch the movie, so you can listen to the music, and so you can be prepared.
I promise you it's going to be more on time now, guys. I am sorry.
David just learned how to schedule posts, guys. Everything has changed right now. It's crazy.
Absolutely. You guys have no idea the stress I was under trying to wake up early in the morning to freaking put up a post.
In case you don't want to follow our Instagram, who knows why you wouldn't want to, you can follow our TikTok, which is linked in our link tree. You can follow us on YouTube, which is linked in our link tree. You can find us on all other streaming platforms, which, guys, guess what? It's linked in our link tree. That's in the description of this episode. That's on our bio on Instagram. I mean, we can't make it any easier for you. And in case you want to see what we have to say about everything we listen to and watch, Rate Your Music and Letterboxd. And guess what? You're never going to guess where that is.
But you know something? There is one thing that's not in our link tree, and that's our email, because that's just for people that listen. So if you want to reach out to us, if you want to get mad at us for not liking Kubrick more, even though I gave the movie a 4.5 out of 5, or if you want to agree with us and tell us just how amazing our opinions are, or if you just want to say how much you love Armenians, you can reach out to us at upcpod@gmail.com. And we will get back to you as soon as we can.
And you know what? I'm pretty sure I put our email in our link tree too, just to be safe. So, you know what? I think that really is the place you want to go to.
Ooh, misdirection.
And guys, leave a review.
Literally.
Rate our show 5 stars. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your enemies. We got a lot of great movies. We got a lot of great music coming up for you. And weirdly, we're almost to the end of the season.
That's crazy.
Like, we have so many more things planned for next season. You're not even ready for the amount of crazy things that we're going to listen to, that we're going to watch, that we're going to talk about.
You guys don't even know how excited you should be.
Yeah. So now's the time to start getting excited. Now's the time to tell everyone to listen to this podcast while it's still in season 1.
And now's the time to go to that Instagram to see what next week's episode is going to be. I have one promise. It's going to be a little sexy.
Ooh, we'll see you next week.